Tom Shivers here. In the last video, growing highly productive tomato plants, I shared with you how my tomato gardening went through a radical transformation from one year to the next. I shared how I didn't really know the steps and secrets to growing highly productive tomato plants. I didn't know how to deal with tomato plant pests and diseases that kill the plant or rob it of its produce, and how I became frustrated putting in the hard work, but not knowing if I would get good results from my garden. The very next season was just the opposite. I became confident at growing tomatoes and enjoyed them during the summer and into the fall. My tomato plants produced 4 times as many tomatoes than ever before. What was the difference? It was my dad's 8 steps to juicy homegrown tomatoes, along with access to his guidance during the season. In this video, I'll introduce you to my dad, and he will share with you the 8 steps that he shared with me. But first, I'd like to thank everyone who emailed me their questions about growing tomatoes, and those who posted all the positive comments about the video, subscribed, liked it, shared it with their friends. I was surprised at all the response, so thank you.
Hi, I'm Tom here with Ernie Shivers, who happens to be my dad as well, and we're here to just learn more about your experience in growing vegetables. How did you get interested in growing vegetables?
Well, when I was a youngster, my dad had a garden every year, and so he would let me do a little weed pulling and maybe harvesting beans or tomatoes or something like that. And so I just sort of grew up with it.
Well, what has been your most frustrating season you've experienced?
Well, I remember several years ago, in the month of July, I had planted my garden, and it was growing fine, and then it rained about twice a week. And it was too wet to get out there and pull the weeds out, and so about the 1st of August, in between my rows, it was grown up with weeds, and so I had to get out there on my hands and knees and pull those weeds out if I was going to have any vegetables to enjoy.
Yeah, that could be not a lot of fun. You get down on your hands and knees. Is there hope for beginner gardeners who are watching this?
Well, sure. You know, as a beginner, you're going to be making mistakes, but you learn from your mistakes. And so next year, you won't make the same mistakes you made this year. And so you just keep adding along like that, and pretty soon you can pretty well handle it.
Well, I happen to bring a couple of questions from people that we happen to know of who are asking some tough questions. Margie, for example, says, "We started a new garden at the back of the house last year. We planted some tomatoes. Some of them died when having fruits. I think that's because we planted them by seed. So this year we bought the tomato plants from the store. They grew very well and they're having fruits, but now they're dying. Oh, what happened to them?" Then Karen says, "I'm so disappointed that my beautiful crop of tomatoes turned out to have late blight. It only started to become evident as they ripened. Before that, they looked lovely, and so did the plants. It's a horrible, sneaky fungus that hides until it's too late to do anything. Can anyone tell me how I can be sure to eradicate it before next summer?" And then Maureen says, "It has been years since I grew tomatoes, and I was so excited when my plants started flowering right away. But the flowers on only one plant develop into tomatoes. I'm perplexed and disappointed." So what are your steps to homegrown tomatoes?
Well, there are 8 steps that I think are important. Perhaps there might be a couple of others, but these 8 are primary. The first is the decisions to make before you plant. And one of them, and in one of these examples you gave here, where someone planted that tomato plants right next to the house, I think probably what happened there was that they were getting sunlight reflected off of the house onto the tomato plants. And so the tomato plants were just getting the heat from the sun, and so that's one thing that I've learned that not to plant tomato plants next to the house. And there's some other things that you to look forward to when you're planting. We'll go into those at a later time.
You have 8 steps to grow tomatoes successfully. What's the second step?
The second is choosing a tomato plant variety. There are just numerous varieties of tomatoes. And so if you need to decide whether you want tall tomato plants or bush tomato. So first thing to do is decide which type you want to plant. If you don't know which plant to start with, just pick out maybe 2 varieties, and then you'll get experience from those 2, and then next year you might want to spread out from there.
All right, what's number 3?
Number 3, selecting tomato plants from the local nursery. When you go into the nursery, you want to look over your plants very carefully. If they have any discoloration, such as yellow or white spots on the leaves, or if they look wilted, if the soil that the tomato plant has dried out, that's not a very good sign of a healthy tomato plant. So you want to pick a tomato plant that's green, bright green, lush green, and has a very healthy look to it.
Okay, what's number 4?
Number 4, choosing the fertilizer and potting soil and compost. There are several fertilizers you could use. I use 10-10-10, which is a balanced fertilizer of nitrogen, potash, and potassium. And so I've had very good results with that fertilizer. Then if your soil is, if you don't have good soil there, you might want to buy some potting soil, or if you have a compost pile, you can add compost to the soil that you're going to plant your tomato in.
In part 2 of this video, Ernie will pick up right where he left off in the 8 steps to juicy homegrown tomatoes. If you found this free information useful to others, please share it with your friends. In other words, pay by tweeting it, sharing it on Facebook, or emailing it to your friends who would like it. When you do, I'll send you part 2 of this video. Just click the link below that says Get Part 2 and start sharing. If you have a question or something to say about growing tomatoes, leave it in the comments. Or you can email me, Tom@growtomatoostoday.com. See you soon.